5 a.m., wake up. 6 a.m., 200 practice questions. 10 a.m., go on Reddit for validation. 12 p.m., watch lectures. 3 p.m., send a daily kiss-up email to my professors. 10 p.m., do Anki flashcards until I cry myself to sleep. If you go by the day in the life or how to study videos you find on the internet, this caricature probably isn't too far off from what some people are trying to portray. This is something that's been on my mind lately because I'm a peer mentor at my medical school and I've been going to the first year's orientation week and I see the anxiety on their faces. I see the scared looks about starting medical school, and that's for good reason. I mean, medical school is really scary. When I first started medical school, I asked a lot of the same questions. What's the best way to study? What third-party resources should I buy? How much should I be studying per week? What ultimately made me drastically improve as a student actually didn't have much to do with school. So some background information for you guys. I am starting my second year of medical school now, but I actually had to repeat the first year of medical school, so I got to do it twice. My academic performance between the first attempt and the second attempt at the year was night and day. And more importantly, so was my mental health, physical health, and overall happiness. Although I did have to make some adjustments to my approach to studying between the two attempts, I attribute my huge improvement to things that don't really have to do with school. In fact, I actually studied a lot less and did better, which is why I wanted to make this video, because I would have loved to have seen a video like this on my first go around. Even if you aren't a student, these tips will help you in your overall productivity, no matter what your end goal is. One thing that I've been preaching to my mentees, other incoming first years, and pretty much anyone I talk to is the importance of having hobbies. According to the Oxford Dictionary, the definition of a hobby is an activity that's done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure. Now, this is something that we all likely already know, but I really want to take a close look at the definition for a second. So a hobby is done for pleasure, and so many times I see people treat their hobbies like a second job. They feel so stressed about it that it kind of sucks away all of the joy that you're supposed to be feeling through that activity. Now, this isn't totally all their fault, right? The toxic hustle culture, the hyper productivity mindset that everyone's algorithm's pushing kind of puts us in a weird predicament where we want to maximize our time and effort at all times and with everything. Now, this is definitely a trap that I've fallen into in the past, especially when I first tried to do the first year of medical school and failed. The material was coming too quickly and I felt like I was getting buried. So any time for my hobbies that I had to be productive so I can get back to studying. This is a great way to burn yourself out because not only are you overloading your brain with a ton of studying, but now you don't have any other outlets to relieve that weight on your shoulders. I started to really tell myself and enforce this with myself that every time I make time for hobbies now, it needs to be fun, it needs to be relaxing, it needs to be leisurely, right? It has to make me leave the activity feeling more recharged. Even if it does involve practicing or working hard or getting better at a different skill set, I still need to be enjoying that time, or else it's not a hobby anymore, it's a second job. And this actually leads me to the second part of that definition that I was talking about that I want to highlight. The definition states that a hobby is an activity done during one's leisure time. But where a lot of people go wrong is that the only time they have for their hobbies is whatever time is left over after all the work is done. Now, this makes perfect sense in theory. It's something that has been ingrained in us since we were children in grade school. Get your work done and then you can have fun. Having spent 2 years teaching as a high school biology teacher and spending the past 6 weeks teaching elementary students, it would be pretty dishonest to say that the school system in America is the blueprint for productivity, efficiency, or setting yourself up for mental health. This past year, I really let myself indulge in more hobbies. Like I said, I actually spent much less time studying. I spent some time pursuing stronger lifts and powerlifting. I went snowboarding every chance I got. I started a YouTube channel that I've been wanting to start for a while and tried a bunch of other things. I felt like I was able to keep up with the things that I loved, and that ultimately made me more productive and effective when it came to studying again. If you only have time for your hobbies after all the work's done, if you don't let yourself indulge in your own hobbies and let yourself take a break from studying, working, or whatever, you're never gonna make time for it. It has to be something that you actively make time for. Otherwise, it's going to be a can that you continuously kick down the road until you inevitably burn out. I touched on this a bit earlier, but another tip for medical students, college students, and pretty much everyone is setting up goals that aren't related to school or work. Personally, I found that I'm someone who strives for accomplishment and hard work paying off. The sense of accomplishment I feel after setting out to do something, putting in the work, and eventually doing the thing is unmatched. And I do get it. Our career is something that plays a huge role in our lives. Earning that A, getting elected for that officer position in that student organization, getting some research published, these are all things that are worthy of feeling happy about, worthy of feeling accomplished about. These are great accomplishments that move the needle in the way that your career wants to go, right? The problem is that if school or work is the only area in your life that you're feeling accomplished, that you're getting that sense of accomplishment, you're giving way too much power to just one aspect of your life. You've decided to be a physician, study computer science, engineering, whatever. These are all great fields, but these things shouldn't define you as a person. Think back to when you were younger. What kind of things made you feel accomplished? Winning a basketball game? Earning a rank on League of Legends? Squatting twice your body weight? Now think about your end game. Once you're financially secure or working in the field you want to be in, what's next? What do you think would make you feel fulfilled day to day? These things matter too, and I argue that it's actually more important to accomplish these things while you're still in school. Medical training is a very long journey, and you will undoubtedly have to make sacrifices along your journey. However, it's still 7 to 12 years of your life, time that you're not gonna get back. Challenge yourself, push yourself outside of the classroom. This is something that will actually manifest positive results when it's time to focus on your academics too. At least they did for me. This past year, I set a ton of goals out for myself, and I did accomplish a lot of them. I did fail a lot of them, but even among those failures, just working towards that goal, making progress, and just improving in whatever aspect that I'm working towards, that made me feel very fulfilled, very accomplished, right? More than ever so before. I set out to increase my lifts. Even though I'm not where I want, I feel stronger than I ever have in my life. I set out to run a half marathon this year, and I've already run farther than that a few times. And because of that, I decided to actually train for a marathon in August instead. And holy shit, I have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that's an accomplishment that I couldn't have done without you guys, so thank you very much for subscribing. I do appreciate all the support. The grind of school gets very repetitive. Lectures, study, exams. Lectures, studies, exams. It's the same thing over and over again. It was easy for me to start feeling a bit jaded because my life started to revolve around just my academic calendar. It's almost like life was just flying by. It was gray and dull. When I made it a point to aim for things outside of just one aspect of my life, life started to take on a lot more color. I began to feel more inspired by the things around me. School became less stressful because it was no longer my only source of accomplishment. On top of becoming a much better student, I felt that I was also becoming a much better person. And I didn't just feel like I was becoming a better person, I actually was developing palpable evidence that actually proved that, hey, you are making progress in the things that you're working on. And yeah, the drive, the determination, the motivation, the ability to build discipline, these are all things that kept me going in all these different goals, and they are all things that eventually fed into me studying better, focusing more on studying, and actually becoming a much better student. My academic performance improved drastically. Accomplishing these things felt good. They made me feel more confident about myself and what I was doing. And that's obviously not only going to help with school, but it'll help you become a better person overall. There's a lot more that goes into developing yourself and improving yourself than just your grades. The last tip that I have is something that's been becoming more and more important to me as time goes on, and especially this past year for me, and that's finding your people. My first year of medical school was right after the whole COVID pandemic, and it really left me in a weird funk socially. On top of that, I moved halfway across the country for medical school. I have a great group of friends back home and family that I'm close with, but I honestly felt a bit isolated when medical school came around. Throw in having a lot less free time, the overwhelming stress of studying and exams, giving up time for my hobbies, it just wasn't a good combination. And one of the most valuable things that helped me through my second attempt at the year actually weren't things at all. They were people. In my experience, group suffering has brought me closer to different groups of people more than anything else really, and that's no exception for medical school. In fact, I wouldn't even really call it group suffering because a lot of the times the friends that I met in medical school We had a lot of fun, we kept each other sane, we helped each other study, and overall it was a good time. They made it much more bearable. Especially in medical training, it's really hard for people that aren't in the field or program to understand the stresses and demands. Building yourself a community in medical school or university is super important. And on top of just the peers that you have in your school, I think it's even more important to make an effort to keep up with the friends outside of school. Get out of that bubble, get out of that program mentality of only thinking about school exams, becoming a doctor. And remember that you have friends outside of that field that you can talk to and keep up with. Especially because there's not as much time to keep up with them, it's really important that you put in that extra effort. In the past, I used to struggle with keeping up with my friends because I was never really one to make small talk through text messages. I don't actually go on social media that much either, so a lot of the times I don't have regular interactions with my circle that's still back in Florida and in other states. Making time to give a friend a call, a FaceTime, at least once a week really helped me feel connected with them, stay in the circle with a lot of my close friends, and just make me feel like I'm still connected to a really tight-knit group. That helped me a lot in medical school because a lot of the times I did feel really guilty for focusing so much and spending so much time on studying that I felt like I was neglecting my friendships and relationships. Now, mental health is a topic that has been on the forefront of a lot of conversations, and for good reason. One thing that I've noticed about my peers, though, is that everyone acknowledges its importance, but nobody seems to think that this also applies to themselves. If you're on this video, understand that your mental health matters too. It doesn't matter if you think you're this productivity machine or someone who takes pride in brute forcing life. Especially in medical school, it's really easy to procrastinate prioritizing your mental health until after the lab practical, after the big block exam, or after the standardized patient. And if you think about it, just that statement alone doesn't really make sense, right? Procrastinating a priority. That's kind of an oxymoron. If you're procrastinating something that you're supposed to be prioritizing, it's not really a priority, is it? And admittedly, I did this a lot during my first attempt at the first year of medical school. I knew my mental health was important, but I thought there were times to sacrifice keeping up with it for the sake of my academics. What I didn't realize was kicking this can down the road only put me in a deeper and deeper hole. Eventually, I was facing something that I've never felt in my life before, which is burnout. And anyone who's ever faced burnout before knows just how scary of a phenomenon it really is. All the things that you know objectively matter and are important to you suddenly become unimportant, or you have absolutely no energy to devote to them. It's like a dark cloud is constantly looking over your head, and it's almost becoming paralyzing. On my repeat year, I made it an adamant point to prioritize my mental health. I took the time to do the things that I enjoyed. I took the time to hang out with friends from school or outside of school. I took the time to just practice mindfulness any chance that I got, and that helped me a lot. And obviously the research has been done on just how powerful and beneficial practicing mindfulness really is, so I'm gonna spare you guys the information dump. We all know that it's really important. From my own experience, I found that doing these things just made me feel more at peace with my stressors and the things in my life. I was able to ground myself, look at my task list objectively, and felt much more oriented when it came to knowing what was expected of me. My focus drastically improved, my motivation improved, my ability to build discipline improved. I was much happier, and this led to me doing much better in school. Whether you're a medical student, whether you're in university, whether you're already working in the field that you want to be working in, your mental health matters. Your mental health matters, meaning it's not just something that matters to everyone else, but you can keep ignoring, procrastinating, and just, suffering in silence. Know that your mental health matters. Making yourself a priority and making your mental health a priority, it doesn't make you weak and it doesn't make you any less capable. It's actually the opposite. It makes you strong and more capable because you're actively addressing some things that might be slowing you down and making you feel unhappy. Now, if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. If you're starting up school again, good luck. I believe in you guys. I would love to hear some tips that you guys about either being a better student, being a better medical student, being more productive, that have nothing to do with actually being in school or working. So leave a comment down below. I'll see you guys on the next video, and I'll see you next time.